It was supposed to be a celebration, a joyful gathering anticipating the arrival of new life. But somewhere between the pastel decorations and the forced smiles, my baby shower became the breaking point. It happened right after Randall made that joke, the one that sliced through me like a shard of ice. I should have seen it coming, the years of subtle jabs and condescending remarks building to this moment. I'll never forget the look on my face when he said those words. Hello everyone, my name is Gemma, and I need to share this story. It's been weighing on me for months, and I hope by telling it, I can finally move on. Before I start, could you all please let me know in the comments where you're listening from? I'm curious to know who's out there and maybe we can connect. Randall's family, the Millers, had never quite accepted me.
From the moment I met them, there was an undercurrent of disapproval, a sense that I didn't quite measure up to their standards. They were the picture of suburban perfection, perfectly manicured lawns, matching outfits, and a shared sense of humor that often came at my expense. Randall, sweet Randall, had always been caught in the middle, torn between his loyalty to his family and his love for me. He would brush off their comments as harmless jokes, tell me I was being too sensitive. "They don't mean anything by it, Gemma," he'd say, pulling me close. "They're just trying to tease you." But the teasing never stopped. It was a constant drip, drip, drip of negativity that eroded my confidence and left me feeling like an outsider. At first, it was subtle, a raised eyebrow at my outfit, a backhanded compliment about my cooking, a condescending remark about my career.
Over time, it escalated. They would make fun of my laugh, my clumsiness, my tendency to overthink things. They would compare me to Randall's ex-girlfriends, all of whom were, according to them, much more sophisticated and accomplished than I was. His mother, Carol, was the ringleader, a master of passive-aggressive digs disguised as motherly advice. "Gemma dear, you really should try this new face cream," she'd say, patting my cheek with a perfectly manicured hand. "You're starting to look a little tired." His sister, Reagan, was equally cutting, with a sharp wit and a talent for zeroing in on my insecurities. "Gemma, you're so brave to wear that dress," she'd say, her eyes darting to my slightly too round hips. "It's not everyone who can pull that off." Even his father, Richard, a seemingly affable man, would participate in the charade, making thinly veiled jokes about my family, my background, my lack of social graces. Randall's reassurances grew thinner with each passing year. I started dreading family gatherings, the thought of facing their constant scrutiny filling me with anxiety. I tried to talk to Randall about it, to explain how much their words hurt, but he just didn't seem to understand. "They're family, Gemma," he'd say, his voice tinged with exasperation. "You have to try to get along with them." I did try. I smiled, I laughed, I played along with their games, hoping that if I just fit in, they would finally accept me. But it was never enough. No matter how hard I tried, I was always the outsider, the odd one out, the target of their jokes. The baby shower was the culmination of it all.
I was 7 months pregnant, hormonal and emotionally exhausted. I had spent weeks planning the event, meticulously choosing every detail from the decorations to the food. I wanted everything to be perfect, a celebration of the new life we were bringing into the world. The shower was held at Carol's house, a sprawling colonial with a perfectly landscaped lawn and a pristine interior. The house was filled with Randall's family, his aunts, uncles, cousins, all of whom seemed to be scrutinizing me with thinly veiled disapproval. The afternoon started off predictably. Carol fussed over the decorations, making subtle digs about my taste. Reagan made snide remarks about my weight. Richard told a series of jokes that were only funny if you found my discomfort amusing. I tried to ignore them, to focus on the joy of the occasion, but their words were like tiny needles, pricking at my skin. I could feel my anxiety rising, my heart pounding in my chest. Then came the games. Carol had organized a series of baby-themed activities, all of which seemed designed to humiliate me. I was forced to guess the weight of a watermelon, change a diaper blindfolded, and drink a concoction of pureed baby food. I played along, forcing a smile, but inside I was crumbling. I could feel the tears welling up in my eyes. Finally, it was time to open the presents. I sat on a plush armchair surrounded by piles of brightly wrapped gifts. I opened each one with a forced enthusiasm, thanking each guest profusely, even though I could feel their judgment weighing down on me. And then it happened. Carol handed me a small, elegantly wrapped box. "This is from Randall," she said, her voice dripping with sweetness. I opened the box, revealing a delicate silver charm bracelet. It was beautiful, with tiny charms representing all the things we loved. A miniature book for my love of reading, a tiny paint palette for my passion for art, a tiny coffee cup for my caffeine addiction. I smiled, genuinely touched by the gesture. "It's beautiful, Randall," I said, reaching out to hug him. He hugged me back, but his eyes were distant, his smile strained. "I'm glad you like it," he said, his voice flat, and then he said it. "The joke. The one that broke me. I figured you could use something to distract you from all the negativity," he said, his eyes scanning the room, searching for approval. "I mean, we wouldn't want our kid to inherit your gloomy genes, would we?" The room erupted in laughter. Carol and Reagan were practically howling, slapping their knees and wiping tears from their eyes. Richard chuckled, shaking his head in amusement. I froze.
The blood drained from my face. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. The joke hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. It was the culmination of everything, the years of insults, the constant negativity, the feeling that I was never good enough. I looked at Randall, his face flushed with pride, basking in the approval of his family. He didn't see the pain in my eyes, the tears that were threatening to spill over. He didn't see that he had just shattered my heart. Without a word, I stood up, ripped the bracelet from my wrist, and threw it at his feet. "I'm done," I said, my voice trembling. "I'm done with this family. I'm done with the jokes. I'm done with you." I turned and walked out of the house, leaving behind the pastel decorations, the forced smiles, and the laughter that felt like a knife in my back. I drove to my best friend Meline's apartment, tears streaming down my face.
I told her everything, pouring out my heart, my anger, my humiliation. She listened patiently, holding my hand, offering words of comfort. I spent the night at her place, sleeping fitfully on her couch, haunted by Randall's words. The next morning, I woke up to a barrage of text messages. My phone was buzzing incessantly. It was Randall's family, their messages lighting up the group chat. "Gemma, you really overreacted," Carol wrote. "It was just a joke. You're so dramatic," Reagan added. "You need to lighten up." "Randall is heartbroken," Richard chimed in. "You need to apologize." I stared at the messages, my anger simmering. They didn't get it. They never got it. And then I saw it. A direct message from Reagan. "Honestly, Gemma, you're lucky Randall put up with you for so long," she wrote. "He could have done so much better." That was it, the final straw. I snapped.
I opened the group chat and typed a message, my fingers trembling with rage. "You know what?" I wrote. "I'm done being your punching bag. I'm done being the butt of your jokes. I'm done trying to please you people. I am not your clown." I hit send, then blocked every single one of them. The silence that followed was deafening. Later that week, Randall called, begging me to come back. He apologized for the joke, said he didn't mean it, said he loved me. I listened to him, my heart aching, but my mind was made up. I couldn't go back. I couldn't subject myself to their toxicity any longer. "I'm sorry, Randall," I said, my voice firm. "It's over," he pleaded. He begged, he cried, but I didn't waver. I knew that if I went back, I would be signing my own death warrant. A few days later, Randall called again, inviting me to a family dinner. He said they wanted to apologize to make amends. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to believe that they had finally realized the error of their ways. Part of me wanted to give them another chance. But another part of me, the part that had been bruised and battered for years, knew that it was a trap. But I also knew I needed to confront them, one last time, to say everything that needed to be said. So, I agreed to go. I arrived at Carol's house, my stomach churning with anxiety. The house was eerily quiet, the atmosphere thick with tension. Randall greeted me at the door, his eyes red and swollen. He led me into the dining room, where Carol, Reagan, and Richard were sitting round the table, their faces grim. "Gemma, we wanted to apologize," Carol said, her voice strained. "We're sorry for the things we said." "We didn't mean to hurt you," Reagan added, her eyes darting away from mine. "We just want you to come back," Richard said, his voice pleading. "We want to be a family." I looked at them, their faces etched with guilt, and I knew that they were being sincere. But it didn't matter. The damage had been done. I took a deep breath and pulled a folded piece of paper from my purse. "I appreciate the apology," I said, my voice steady. "But I need you to understand the extent of the damage you've caused." I unfolded the paper and began to read. It was a list, a meticulously compiled list of every hurtful thing they had ever said to me, every insult, every joke, every condescending remark. I read each item aloud, my voice growing stronger with each word. I recounted the time Carol told me I needed to lose weight, the time Reagan made fun of my clothes, the time Richard implied that my family was inferior to theirs. As I read, their faces grew paler and paler.
They shifted in their seats, their eyes filled with shame. When I finished, the room was silent. I refolded the paper and placed it on the table. "These are just a few examples," I said, my voice calm. "There are many more, and I'm sure there will be even more if I stay here any longer. You may not have meant to hurt me, but you did, and I can't forgive you for that. I won't forgive you for that." I reached into my purse again and pulled out another document. "These are divorce papers," I said, handing them to Randall. "I've already signed them. All you have to do is add your signature." Randall stared at the papers, his face stricken. "You can't do this, Gemma," he said, his voice trembling. "We can work this out." "No, we can't," I said, my voice firm. "It's over, Randall. It's been over for a long time." I turned and walked out of the house, leaving behind the divorce papers, the apologies, and the family that had never truly accepted me. I moved back in with my parents, who welcomed me with open arms. They had always been supportive of me, even when I was making decisions they didn't agree with. In the weeks that followed, I was bombarded with phone calls and text messages from Randall and his family, all of them begging me to reconsider, to give them another chance. Carol sent me flowers with a card that read, "We're so sorry, please come back." Reagan sent me a heartfelt email, apologizing for her past behavior. Richard even showed up at my parents' house, pleading with me to forgive them. But I stood my ground. I knew that if I went back, I would be betraying myself, sacrificing my own happiness for the sake of their approval.
I focused on myself, on my pregnancy, on building a new life, one that was free from their negativity and judgment. I started attending prenatal yoga classes, where I met other expectant mothers who were supportive and encouraging. I reconnected with old friends who reminded me of my worth and my strength. I threw myself into my art, creating beautiful paintings that reflected my inner peace. As my due date approached, I felt a sense of calm and contentment wash over me. I was no longer afraid, no longer insecure, no longer defined by the opinions of others. I was Gemma, a strong, independent woman ready to embrace motherhood on my own terms. One day, I received a confirmation email stating that my divorce had been finalized. I felt a surge of relief wash over me. It was official. I was free. I called Nalene and asked her to meet me at our favorite restaurant. "I have something to celebrate," I said, my voice bubbling with excitement. When she arrived, I showed her the email. "I'm officially divorced. I exclaimed, throwing my arms around her. We ordered a bottle of champagne and toasted to my newfound freedom. To Gemma, Malene said, raising her glass. May she find happiness and peace, free from the toxicity of the Millers. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had felt in years. I was finally free. Free from the jokes, free from the insults, free from the judgment. I was free to be myself, to be happy, to be the best mother I could be. And as I sat there, surrounded by the love and support of my friends, I knew that I had made the right decision. I had chosen myself, my happiness, my peace, and that was the best decision I had ever made. I knew I would find someone better, someone who would love me for who I am. And that's when I realized they didn't break me, they made me stronger. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to the channel for more such stories.